Welcome everybody to another week of energy update here for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is Bryndis. I'm an energy healer and energy coach, accompanying you through the energies to come. We are doing a forecast, not a prediction, but a forecast of collective weather conditions. And so you see this barometer here on your screen reflecting the intensity levels of the energies coming in here for next week. But before we go deeper into what is coming, let's still digest a little bit what we are dealing with. We've had some disturbances in the force here this past week. Last week's barometer was on red, and I think most of you could feel this in a most peculiar way. So it wasn't really like shit was hitting the fan, if you forgive me my English, but it was more like subdued, and it felt very distracting. Still, people are dealing with tiredness or like a fogginess inside, and also with a lot of physical issues. And yes, we are alive. I'm starting to see you guys. Let me know where you're from. Let me know how energies are going for you at the moment. Yes, please comment or ask questions. I like the interaction with you. This is a big, sort of extra energy for me here. While I'm doing these updates, I could just write it down. And as you all know, there's a written report and an edited video in the end that is a bit more refined. But here in this live setting, I like interacting with you. Yes, Matthew, very peculiar. All right, well, it's cool to see you. Welcome from South Africa. This theme here in September is all about self-responsibility. So let's, sort of zoom out the camera a bit and look at the larger context and why are we dealing with the things that we are dealing. So, it's life, dealing with issues. So we all have issues, and those of us here on the spiritual path, we are, tend to go into sort of this microscopic view sometimes with our issues, with our problems, and the unconscious stuff and the unseen stuff and the energetic stuff and the visioning and so forth. And sometimes we lose touch with the larger picture of things, okay? So taking responsibility, becoming accountable for our energy, for our life, those are themes of maturity, themes of evolution, okay? This is how we grow. And, the fact that we have to keep reminding ourselves that mistakes are important learning experience in our life is just because we have this piece in us, this ego piece, that resists, everything that's uncomfortable, everything that feels a little painful, everything that triggers fear in us. So, I called this energy report consciously maturing because it's a reminder for us here, what comes in next week, that we are not alone in this world. Sitting on the mountaintop is not spiritual. That this is why we talk so much about this practical spiritualism, because we have to really see ourselves as part of the whole, regardless of the incompatibilities or the issues that we have with our environments. And how sometimes annoyed we are by our energetic sensitivity that makes us feel all these collective weather conditions in a very sort of intense personal way. But if you zoom your camera out, you'll see that there's a larger evolution, a larger learning aspect that is coming forward for all of us. And what is the goal of this? This is not just some magical transformation, the Aquarian age or the Golden Age, or we all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. No, this is not what this is about. This is about learning how to become a true self and how to actualize this. So self-actualization. And what is self-actualization? It means that we learn how to consciously be and live who we truly are. Okay, it's a conscious act of self-love in most of our cases, because the lack of inner connection has kind of made us forget what, self truly is. Self means being in connection with self, and how can we best be in connection with self when we let go of all the false self, all the identifications, and all the judgments that we have about who we are not. And I call this a conscious act of self-love, because we have to really, just like every parent, if you are a parent, you can probably relate to this, has to, sort of let everything go. All the things that your kids say to you, and the mistakes that they do, and even the things that you can foresee, the pain that they're running into with their stupid decisions. But you have to let all that go and love them anyway. Okay, and yes, there is a frustration in this sometimes, and yes, it requires us to be very patient sometimes. It requires us to see things from this sort of unconditional place, kind of like how, at least this is how I picture this, how the divine looks at us, its creation. So we all carry this divine spark in us, but in order to adapt and to assimilate all this into our 3D existence that is highly disconnecting, all right, still, okay, and it probably will be for another, 50 years, 100 years maybe, where the majority of people on this planet are not in this place, and where they perhaps don't even have the goal of getting into this place. So there's a lot of letting go and a lot of patience involved with this. And speaking of frustrations, I mentioned this last week, and you saw me struggling here with all those outer interferences, okay? This week, I'm not giving it a chance, okay? I've had it, okay? This is it. That's an energy that's coming in here for you guys right now. I'm indoors now, and I'm still finding my new rhythm. We just moved here. I don't have my proper office set up yet. I don't have a proper studio set up yet. So I have to be flexible. I have to deal with what I have and what I can do. Okay, so this is part of the energy that's coming in next week. So it all comes down to self-responsibility, guys, and to accept that some things have a certain timeline, that they have a certain rhythm, that they have a certain sort of step-by-step kind of sequence. And, even though we can connect to the larger, we still have to accept that in this 3D reality, that there's a sort of a linearity to it. So, we straddle these two worlds, where part of us can already feel the larger picture and can also see the larger picture, within our meditations, within our contemplations, through this inner consciousness work that we are doing. But then there's also a part, and that includes our physical, that is anchored in this sort of separated linear reality that we constantly have to, harmonize. Okay, and harmonizing is kind of the theme here for the second part of September that is coming in. So harmonize this. Okay, everything that you went through last week was almost like a conception of a new, you. Not like a new you, but a renewed you, that has shed more layers of your false self. And this is now, I know, this is not going over, this is not an event, this is not going overnight. Except that this may take like 9 months, just how long it takes to develop a child, until this comes to full fruition. Okay, so allow yourself this space to grow, all right? And yet remember what it is that you are aiming for, while letting go of what you couldn't see or didn't do before. So all this going back and I should have and I could have is a waste of energy, guys. Energy management is your tool here for the future. That's your new technology. You've always had it in you, but you're starting to really understand the mechanics of it. Use it, okay? And so with the self-responsibility also comes an accountability. You know, am I allowing energetic ties that are dragging my energy down? Am I allowing toxic situations, jobs, relationships, things that I keep engaging in, bad energetic habits, as I call them, that keep pulling me into my ego? Remember, the more incongruence, the more stress on your energy system, the more energetic ties, the more ego. All right, and ego not as sort of the villain here, but ego as sort of the animalistic part in you, you know, the stuff that comes from your autonomous nervous system, your limbic system, where all your great intentions have absolutely no power, okay, because you are in fight, flight, or freeze. Hey, Washington, I see you. I see Denmark. So cool to have you guys here, and thank you for all the hearts. This really lifts up my energy in a split second. So good to see you guys. How are you guys dealing? Give me a few markers here of what the challenges are for you at the moment. And then I can also reflect on how to best approach this here for the next week. So while I'm talking, because there's a little bit of a delay, this new self-awareness, guys, okay, has a lot to do with what is this true self in me? What is the vision of this true self? What is it? Where is it really going? What is the true vision of myself? This is the theme here for next week. And in order to be able to practically, connect and apply this, we're going to have to make this a conscious act, a conscious, mature act. All right? To see that we cannot stick with these old ego patterns anymore, no longer. Enough is enough. All that's really doing is triggering and re-energizing all our core inner child issues, our abandonment issues, our fears of rejections, our fears of making mistakes, all that stuff, all right, that keeps pulling you into your lower vibratory fields, inner and outer. Yes, it's going back and forth. I know. I hear you, Cindy. That's been like one of these frustrating themes in the last week. Yes, it's getting a little better. And Annette, you are a part here of our Heart Warrior program, and you get to consciously work on these things, and this goes really deep in these public transmissions that we do every 2-3 days, and we train a lot of things. And so you have been in this process of conscious self-awareness and really looking and facing some of these things for quite a while now. And so for you, it's becoming lighter now. This is the thing, if we face it, if we shed those false self layers, and no matter how uncomfortable this can be at a certain time, all right, it's what makes us mature, it's what makes us grow. Yes, we are having to really consciously work on shift. That's why I said this is not like a magical wand or some second coming no, we are the ones that are doing this transformation. We are not the ones that are receiving transformation. No, we are experiencing and observing it at the same time. We are witnessing this transformation. Yes, Matthew, seeing your ego story more easily and then calm it down and bring it back. And this is what I call correction. You go into feedback with it. You're not afraid to face it. And then, you see, oh, dang, this is just my fear of abandonment, or here, I just want, attention or commiseration or validation for certain things, whatever our primary or core inner child wounds are, they bring forth those ego patterns. And there's nothing unspiritual about seeing those or facing those. On the contrary, it's the correction, it's the willingness to work with it and to correct it. and to learn from our mistakes, but without going back into the past and beating ourselves up. Self-berating, wallowing in guilt, wallowing in regrets, guys, that's an self-indulgence. That's an indulgence of the ego. It's self-centeredness and, sort of a low-grade form of narcissism. Many on the spiritual path cannot see that this constant rehashing of whatever they perceive is not perfect yet about them and so forth is nothing but narcissism. Low-grade form, but very self-centered. Hey, from Chicago, I see you. Yes, you have been dealing with resistance to transform, and thank you for bringing this up, Suri, because this is the theme or for the next week as well. And these different layers of resistance, how our being has these different layers, like physical, emotional, mental, social, spiritual, and energetic. They come up in different they come out in a staggered way. That's why we feel this back and forth sometimes. We thought, didn't I already deal with this? And then it comes back, but it's a different energetic layer. Yes, and there's also this strong pull, this 3D pull. You could, with simpler words, you could say like a reality check. Okay, so we're experiencing all these inner, new transformative energies coming in, and yet, we also experience or witness the density level of 3D, how we get pulled back into our 3D reality. And that's why I called it straddling two worlds earlier, because we have to be okay with dealing with our energetic reality and our 3D reality, our physical reality at the same time. And this isn't easy. Yes. Yes. Casey, this is the time, this next week, okay, where we have to call on things that are no longer okay for us. It has to do with boundaries. It's this feeling enough is enough. I've had it. But without going into the opposite end, the shadow aspect of that, which is blaming, victimizing, sort of scapegoating, or, becoming angry and resentful and wanting revenge. No, from a standpoint of, okay, I see my part in this. I am accountable for this. And I'm going into self-responsibility now. I'm saying that this no more. Okay, this no more. This doesn't have to lead to breakup no. This is like a reset, where you say, okay, we got to renegotiate this. Okay, this contract, whatever contract that is, whether it's a job contract or a marriage contract or a parenting contract, you can even go to your kids and say, guys, you know what? And I've done this, 12, 13 years ago. I said, you know what? I can totally see how I was a codependent mom here in the past. I've done, things for you that I shouldn't have been doing because it enabled, your laziness, or it enabled your entitlement. And guess what? I take full responsibility for this, but no more. From now on, I'm not going to do this anymore. And will this feel mean or unfair to you? Absolutely. So expect resistance when you come in and make a reset. And when you actually become more mature and say, I can't, based on my own integrity, I can't really do this anymore. Okay, so we need to find a better solution. Yes, so don't be afraid of pushing this reset button, but stay open, and in my experience, it's always the best to start out with, being accountable for your own parts, owning your own parts, and start the conversation with that. I can see now how I have been, accepting or tolerating things, or even doing things that are not for my highest good, that are not good. And I can see this now. And I need us to work this out now. I need us to work together, to find different ways. without making the other wrong, or without wallowing in your own pain about the things that you weren't able to see before. Yes. Yes, and Casey, this is a process, okay? So you speak up once, okay? And that doesn't mean that magically overnight everything changes. Ego patterns. Okay, guys, go back to the video series here, the 21 days breaking through the matrix. First day, it takes 550 days just on a neurological level to establish a new pattern within us. And ego patterns are directly anchored in your vegetative nervous system. Okay, 550 days, that's a year and a half. Be okay that this transformation, okay, that this, this shift in your marriage will take a year or two. And that's okay. All right? So resistance, sometimes it seems like a block, but it isn't. It's just like, yeah, sure. I mean, you have done things the same way for the 20, 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden you have this revelation, and now you expect everybody else to be, oh yeah, sure, I can see how that wasn't good for you. Sure, no, that's not how this goes. Those are complex patterns that go, but that take place in the unseen between people. So you got to give others space to adjust to that as well. Now, if you have been trying this for a long time and say, I've been in this situation before as well. Let's take relationships. You live in a relationship where you can clearly identify toxic or degrading patterns, and you have been speaking up for, quite a while now, for years maybe, and have even suggested to do couple counseling or doing something together, and the other just simply doesn't want to participate, just doesn't want to do this, then this will be the time where you may have to do this reality check, namely, maybe he doesn't or maybe she doesn't want change. Maybe they want to keep things the way they are, and that is their right as well. So whose responsibility then is it to resolve the situation? Yours. You got to ask yourself, is this okay for me? Can I live with this? You got to respect other people's goals as well, no matter what you mentally or spiritually think about their goals. If a person wants to stay the way they are, that is their right. Then it's not up to you to make them change or force them to change. It's up to you to decide whether you're okay with this and whether you want to further deal with this. And if not, then it's, your kind of, yes, I'm not just speaking to you, Casey, I'm speaking to all of us, because this is a subject that comes up here for many of us at this very moment, and not just in relationships, also, with our jobs. I know many of you have already gone, tried to change maybe working hours or workplace-related issues, as energetically sensitives. We have a lot of workplace-related issues. Your superiors or whatever bosses may have said, yeah, okay, we can work on it, and nothing happens, okay? This is the kind of situation that I'm talking about. Yes. Okay, so thank you guys for sharing here. I know this can be quite personal, but remember, it's not as personal as we think. Okay? And when we go into the energy tips here, you'll hear me say things such as time not to take ourselves, my issues, my pain too seriously anymore, because it's getting old. Okay? And if some of you have felt this kind of boredom with your own stuff last week, welcome. This is a very, very good time. Very, very good sign. It's a very good sign when you feel bored by the same old, whether it's your own or, other people's patterns, that keep affecting you. Now, when it comes to the collective, the collective as such is a much larger field and therefore has, a bigger inertia. Okay, so this transformation that we are witnessing within ourselves takes a lot longer for the collective. Okay, but, and I'm getting this question quite a bit, each and every one of, like, what is it that I can do to support the collective? Well, first of all, it's not your job to support the collective. Okay, you're part of the collective. And so, the best thing you can do, or we as individuals can do, is, to transcend these ego layers within ourselves and to move into our heart, to move into the truth of living in our heart, and, do our best. And as we raise our vibration, this impacts, the whole entire collective, in a sense that, one person with a higher consciousness level can hold the space, can hold the field for millions of people. Okay, so this is the esoteric truth of this individual transformation process. We do not need to save the world. We came here to do this with ourselves, and as we do this individually, sort of one soul at a time, we are raising the conscious level of the entire collective field. But the collective will not do this without resistance. And so, times like this where we see a lot of chaos, and not to mention, of course, the physical planet Earth responding to this as well, to this transformation, with now lots of storms, lots of unusual weather patterns, earthquakes, and so forth. This is sort of the resistance within the planet. Okay, not that it doesn't. I mean, its consciousness doesn't want to transform. No, it has no judgment about transformation. It just goes with it. But it knows that, for new patterns to establish, old patterns kind of have to be transcended. And sometimes that's a bit extreme, and sometimes, it could go smoothly. So right now, it's a little bit of resistance there in the physical. Yes. Hey, Canada, I can see you too. Wonderful. All right, so let's look at these collective patterns here, and how we can address them from our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic perspective. What we can do, healing strategies. Okay, so first of all, the main chakras affected here in this next week will be our first. That's our inner child. That's our fundamental, our core issues, guys, that will pull us back into this inertia. Okay. But our fifth and our sixth coming in really strong now with truth, expressing truth, actualizing truth. And the resistance that we will feel there, we'll talk about this here in a minute, will affect, the way we, live or our 3D environment. Okay, so all of that has to move into our heart and harmonize through our heart. Okay, so first, fifth, and sixth, and the motion or the tendency here, the transformational tendency, is into our heart. I have some good news for you. After this week, it will feel a lot lighter. So this harmonizing, that I talked about, will probably, I suspect, a main subject here for week 39. But for this coming week, we have to make this a conscious act of, maturing, right? So physically, okay. So physically, I've said this weeks and months back. This whole summer and the fall here is all about physical transformation, physical adaptation, and therefore we're dealing with a lot of physical resistances. Okay, many people feel this in their joints, knees, and hips. We had last week. This coming week, you'll feel this a bit more in those sort of organs, or that are directly interacting with the outer world. Okay, so because we're supposed to go into a truth, see our truth, and act according to our truth. So expect skin issues, expect issues with your eyes, your ears, all your senses. Okay, they're going to be involved here with this fifth and sixth chakra activation. Okay, so you'll have maybe pimple outbreaks or something like that, rashes, or not necessarily chronic things, but if you are already suffering from sort of chronic skin conditions, it may be a week where this flares up a bit more. Okay, so all this is becoming very, very practical now. So allow this, this physical impact that it will have on you. Allow that to be there. Go into. Remember that you have to be flexible about things. Okay, so don't go back to the old days. Don't try, old things. By the way, those of you with sensitive skin, you may find out that you need new skincare products. Those of you with sort of sudden food sensitivities, you may find out that you need to eat different things or stay away from certain things. So don't go back into the past. Don't go back into what used to work. Try something new and be flexible. Okay, so flexibility, here in as an energy tip for this next week, also in a very practical sense, in the sense of actually stretching. So don't just see this as like a bodily thing, but also stretch your boundaries. Also work on all those things such as finances, which is also physical. It has to do with, your first chakra has to do with 3D. Allow all that, to become real, to become practical. Be pragmatic. Okay, you may feel nausea, as a result of energies in your body speeding up. So don't be afraid of that. When you go into, especially as energetically sensitives, we have this sometimes when energies are speeding up massively, and it feels like motion sickness. It feels like, whoa, what's going on? Or sudden dizziness. Don't be afraid of this. Okay. Just really go into your energy system and ask it to slow down. Maybe slow down your breathing a little bit, take, sort of a 10 or 20 minute meditation break. Be okay with slowing down. Be okay with this sort of pacing, okay? Observe, like everything that is going on around you. You will see a lot of people reacting to this in very immature ways. Okay, so on a physical level, try to be really present. Drink lots of water. I found that drinking lots of water really helps me to ground. Okay, this is overall is a time where we have to sort of embrace these more feminine energies, and water is a representative of this. Okay, yes. Daniela, I'll respond to this here when we get to the social energy tips. Okay, so don't go into resistance if you feel your old patterns flaring up. Such as victimhood. Feeling like a doormat, feeling like taken advantage of. Don't do what you normally did. Okay. Remember, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you will get the same results, and the same on a physical level. Okay, so the solution here, I've already mentioned this in the intro, is make it everything a conscious act of self-love, and this includes your boundaries. This includes self-responsibility for what you are allowing, or what you're not allowing, and always give yourself a soft eye. Don't hang on to like what you did allow in the past and how this produces these regrets in you. So people will be more prone to infections this next week, and 5th and 6th. So this could again, once more lead to like sinus issues, but it's more the regrets and the fourth chakra, that needs to sort of break up these layers, these onion layers that you guys mentioned before. So coughing, and things with your lung. Okay, they will probably be a bit more prevalent. This always shows you that there is a pull into the past, that there is some kind of regret, something that you need to overcome in regards to the past. Emotionally, I mentioned this in the intro, the core issues that are coming forward are primarily linked to our inner child. They're also karmic, and there's there's a link between karmic and inner child issues. Okay, so we kind of have to go through certain childhood experiences and wounds and traumas to fulfill our karma. And why is that? Because we set ourselves up to have this optimal karmic learning experience here in this incarnation, and our parents, our siblings, the conditions that we are born in, those are all sort of part of this karmic setup. They are all, these people in our life that have had an influence in our childhood, or that traumatized us or whatever. For the most part, it's really just being human, but these people are all karmic supporting actors, okay? It's not their fault. Understand that, because they came in with their karmic load and with the stuff that they need to undo, okay? And so we have this agreement in the etheric, to support each other in this way. Okay, this is a little softer version of, my parents did this and my mother did this. Yes, they did. And yes, every parent is an insufficient parent, because every parent has his or her own stuff to deal with. So it's not about blaming your parents. And when I talk about facing your inner child core issues, I'm not talking about, going back to like all the injustice that your parents or your family or your village has done to you. No, I'm talking about, go in there and build a relationship with your inner child. Work with it. Ask it what it needs. Be there for it. Be the wiser, more healed version, the more mature version for your inner child, and help it to catch up with that, okay? Always see, and guys, this is what all the spiritual stuff is about, understanding, that there's a retrocausality in everything, and that the moment where you can actually change and heal is in the now. But it has these ripple effects into the past and into the future. So your past self, your current, your present self, and your future self, they're intrinsically linked with another. And you got to embrace that link. Okay? So many people of you feel this sort of inner pull or calling into things, but you get caught up in all your past shit. Just let go. Let go of what you couldn't know. Okay? Now you do know. Now is the time. Okay? And now if you don't know where to go, then ask your future self. It already knows. It's the more mature, the more healed, the wiser version of you. You don't need any spirit guides or aliens or whatever to tell you, what your purpose is here, what you came here for. Okay? So don't get pulled into this, guys, emotionally, with all this immaturity flaring up. Remember that most of, our inner child aspects lead to projection, okay? We're projecting our stuff onto others, okay? So my tip for you is, if you have this like sort of burning thing that rubs you the wrong way about your partner, or your friend or whatever, first thing, before you go and complain and victimize yourself, reflect this back onto you and try to see what your parts are in this. Because typically our projections have to do with the things in ourselves that we cannot love yet, that we cannot fully accept yet. Yes, and from an energetic point of view, reflecting into our emotions, it's very important that you understand that all these unresolved issues that you allow, I call them like monkeys on the back, because what they really do to a person's etheric is that they create all these energetic binds, these energetic ties to other people, to certain subjects. Everything that you avoid, everything that you try to distract yourself from, or that you try to cope with, be it smoking pot or drinking alcohol or popping pills, okay, creates an energetic tie. And it will pull you back into your into your past. It will pull you back into your unresolved issues, no matter how hard you try to avoid it. There is no escape. On an energetic level, there is no fooling yourself. There is no escape from your energetic reality. Okay? So reflect on that emotionally, and, a conscious act of self-love here is also being willing to call it tough love. This unconditionality for yourself, and that you also develop for others, often requires to decide, this is it. I'm done with this lesson. I don't need this karmic repeat over and over and over again. I get it. I see the pattern. I see how, like there's something that I'm avoiding, and then I try to like sort of cope it away, and then it gets a foothold in me. It becomes more of a fear now, now I'm afraid to face it. Now I'm trying to shove it even deeper, lock it into the basement, and now I'm feeling depressed, and I feel like I'm judging myself, and I'm losing all my self-esteem, and there you are, in your dark night of your soul. Remember? It's a form of self-indulgence, guys. For those of you who already know what truth is, and know how to go in your heart, what do you think you need to do in those moments? You got to catch it. You got to catch it before it latches on. And say, dang, I'm not going to go there again. I'm not going to victimize myself. I'm not going to, beat myself up to the point where all I can feel is negativity or paranoia. Be careful about this. Mentally, okay, for next week, it's a really, really tricky time, because this self-judgment, okay, and this negativity will be really strong in the collective. So if you don't have this discipline yet and the willingness to let go of these immature energetic habits, okay, then you're going to get pulled into this. And talking of like not, like immature actions, things explode sometimes in us, and we can, show immaturity. That's fine, but you can always go back and correct. All right, you can always say, hey, I'm sorry, the way this came out wasn't really mature. It wasn't really, that was a bit extreme because I've been sucking this up for so long. What I really meant to say is, okay, so don't take yourself too seriously here, all right? And don't let yourself get pulled into this paranoia that you cannot handle it. Instead, make it a conscious act of self-love to focus on what you can do instead of focusing on what you can't do. What can I do for myself right now? What can I do to raise my energy? And oftentimes, guys, it's letting go of the ties that you allow, okay? Be consequential. That's what I mean with tough love. Don't allow these ties. People project the heck out of you, and you project the heck out of others. Those are all energetic ties. Stop that. And if you want to know how to learn this or how to do this, and this is what transCODES is for, guys. This is my bread and butter. This is what I teach people, how to do this, okay? There's no way past learning the mechanics of your energetic reality once you've already been thrown into this as an energetically sensitive or empath, okay? So just, sorry, I'm on a roll here. Yeah, I missed a few of your comments here, but yes, it is a magical journey, but at the same time, guys, it's a practical journey. We have to accept that this energetic sensitivity and the spiritual awareness that we have, this rise of consciousness level that we have, has a pragmatism to it. It needs to be integrated. It needs to be implemented. And if you refuse to do this and keep projecting it onto other people or your childhood or whatever, your mom and your dad, you're not going to get there. Sorry. It's tough love, okay? Enlightenment is tough love, and it's very, very practical, very pragmatic. In our relationships, you can see this every day. What is the bullshit that you have to keep up with every day, that you have to deal with every day? It's all the stuff that you didn't resolve in the past. Okay, so in regards to relationships, in regards to your job, and so forth, remember, love and happiness and fulfillment are choices. They're choices, they're energetic states. It's your responsibility. You are accountable, for what you accept in your life. And that's your alignment. Okay? So when it comes to wanting to make changes and doing this whole sort of transformation business here in a conscious way, you're going to have to decide first where you want to be energetically. Okay? And, just because things are a little chaotic right now in the world, in your relationship or whatever, doesn't mean it's bad. Remember, people ask me about, the hurricanes and blah, why did you move back to Florida? Guys, I've went through so many hurricanes. It doesn't bother me. Here's what I see. Yes, there's a little bit of cleanup, damage and so forth, and obviously for some people, this it can be devastating, but for the most part, guys, you know what happens after a disaster? People move closer together. People start sharing resources. People start remembering what is really important in their life. Families get together. They do cookouts again. Unfortunately, it gets forgotten. It gets forgotten after a couple of weeks. But these disasters, seeming disasters, they remind us on the true vision of ourselves and how we really, truly want to live, guys. So don't be afraid of any of this. Resource sharing, I talked about this in the forecast for September, is going to be a big, big subject. And how do you think this is going to come about? Through scarcity. Yeah. But also the realization that we've accumulated so much stuff that we don't even need. I told you last week, right? One of the things that we did here in our moving process, and I felt almost embarrassed. I felt like a consumer criminal, throwing away, like 80% of my household. Okay, I don't need all this stuff, And so instead of going back and beating myself up over all this, I'm like, dang, this is liberating. I'm letting go of this. Do I go into grief and regrets a little bit? Something, yeah, maybe this or that I should have kept. Okay, fine. So a little bit of grief is okay, and I'm not afraid of that. So I allow the renewal of this, and enjoy, buying a few things that I need for baking and stuff like that. It's practical stuff, just get new stuff. So for your relationships, it's the same. Okay. Spiritually, it's really important to understand the connection here with the manifestation process, and why I keep talking about masculine, feminine energies and inner child. Okay, guys, the short version of this is the way manifestation and actualization works is that you basically have to undo the separation that happened at the moment your soul incarnated here into this 3D reality. 3D reality consists of masculine, feminine, and child. Okay, these are the triune energies that we are unite all of this within. We have to unite these separated masculine, feminine, and divine inner child energies, to work together. All right, and so you cannot get past any of your blocks and miseries and sufferings if you are unwilling to resolve, the issues that are there with your masculine, with your feminine, and your inner child energies. Period. Okay, so you can do affirmations and you can have all these beautiful visualizations all day long. But if your energies within are blocked, or if you have too many energetic ties, that lead to like a real sucky energy management, okay, it's all going to poof away and it's not really going to actualize for you. Yes, and I guess I have to hurry up now because the long guy is back harassing me here inside my house. Energetically, I've basically said it with all the things that I talked about. They're all just different layers of the very same thing, energy management and heart consciousness. You've got to accept that you're going to make mistakes on the way. You've got to accept that there's a certain timeline, the more you resist, the longer it will take. Okay? The more you resist, the more ego, the longer it will take for you to unravel those layers of false self, and ego that come with this. So accept that it's a continual process. Accept that, you can make corrections and focus on the things that you can change. And don't get wrapped up into the negativity around you. Because, see, the ego and, sort of the whole planetary populace, responds to changes with resistance because, it's the ego's biggest fear. The ego likes things the way they are, even if they're dysfunctional. Okay, so you're dealing with the global ego here as well, not just your own. But our responsibility is, to go into our personal self-actualization, but without wallowing and without getting, distracted and pulled back into our suffering, which, can be seen as a self-indulgence. All right, guys. Sorry for the rant that I went on there earlier. If you want to, work with me and have this, life, in your ear, then check out transCODES website. We have several programs. Sacred Self-Healing Program is probably the most popular. It's a course, and it's a whole community behind this. Lots of webinars and workshops, but also in individual sessions, or the Hardware program, where it's like a personal energy training that we develop for you, for you personally. So there's many different ways how to do this. You don't need anybody else, but it helps to have a guide, who can help you navigate through this. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to get ready for the crypto spiritual update here coming up, where I reflect all this into the financial markets. Lots going on in the financial markets. Bye-bye, everybody.